Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Are you interested in angels, demons, ghosts, spirits, and monsters? Are you curious about their origins, influence, and how to protect against the unknown? If so, then welcome to Southern Demonology, the podcast that explores all of this and more.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Before we get into that, I know I mentioned this previously, but I want to just get this out there because I find it amazing, to say the least. I wear 2 medallions around my neck. One that came from the bishop over at Nicolean TV, and one that came from you, Father Mike, which is the Blessed Medallion of Saint Benedict.
Yes, sir.
And since I have had these on, and I've had them on for about 2 months now, I have not had a single nightmare.
JJ, that is freaking awesome.
Not one.
That's awesome.
And I've dreamed, but they've been silly dreams. They've been just
to hear
regular...
you say that you had a silly dream that makes my heart smile.
It's amazing to me. I have never gone this long without a horrific nightmare ever. And the fact that now it's 2 months in and I'm still just trucking right on along is just, it's just amazing to me.
But, well, that amazement, if you will, it also shows not only the importance of the sacraments of the church, where the divine meets the natural, but it also points out the sacramentals, like the medals, like the crucifixes, like the stations of the cross, or I mean, even the table of the Lord, the objects that is used for the sacraments are called sacramentals. And that blessed Saint Benedict medal that you're wearing, it was intanged, if you will, with the sovereignty of God to do what it is supposed to do, and that's to bring comfort and to be a visible sign and symbol unto you that, hey, I'm protected and I have a great cloud of witnesses praying for me before the throne of God. So when you wear that, that's what you're reminding yourself of. And to hear that you have not had a single nightmare, something that you have been devastated and tormented all your life with, that it's not happening, I want to cry for you. And I'm talking about tears of joy, man. I mean, that is absolutely awesome. Somebody may listen to this podcast tonight and say, I wish I had one of those. Well, let me tell you something. If you don't mind, JJ, and you can cut this off if you want to, if someone is suffering the way that you've been, and they say, I'm on my last nerve. I'm at the end of my rope and the knot is wearing out. If someone listens to this tonight and says, I'm in the same place, let me know. Ask them to contact you and I'll send them one. And I'm not you don't have to pay me anything. I'm a loving pastor. We'll send it to you. Now, if you want to give to the church, I'm not going to turn that down. I mean, we're a small, poor church, but I mean, but yeah, I'll get it and we'll send it off.
I'll do you one better than that, Father Mike. If someone out there contacts me, I will let you know. And if you ship them to me, I will then ship it to you for free. You don't
Okay.
have to do anything. All I have to know is an address, and I will send it right on along. I have no problem with that whatsoever. In fact, I currently have, I think, 4 on me from the last batch that Father Mike sent, and I will happily use those up, and then I'll get some more. So,
Well, if 2 of those get gone, I'll send you another pack. That way you'll have a stock.
I will do that because,
That's a good deal.
yeah, because I I thoroughly appreciate these more than I could tell you. If I just had one night's relief, that would have been a blessing to me. And the fact that I have gone this long, and I'm not claiming a miracle cures or anything else. It really makes me wonder if these really are a result of a generational curse.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because my mom has them, my uncle, before he passed, he had them, and quite a few others in my family have. And it's not like my family is guilt free when we have some horrific stories in our past. But
You said yourself that you grew up in a 200-year-old haunted log cabin. Well, thank God you're not 200 years old walking around. But you
I
don't know
just
what
look
you
like
don't.
it.
Yeah, me too. But do you remember the conversation that we had about the land as well? We don't know what happened on that land, especially in the middle of the Civil War. So there could have been a lot. I mean, even before the Civil War, in the driving away of the Cherokee and the Creek Indians, that land could have been cursed.
That's true.
And
I mean,
so,
it's not like our entire property is ringed with Native American burial grounds.
yeah,
In fact, there's one that it's about a 4 mile walk straight back in the woods, but we call it Tarzan Hill. But it is a burial mound that has a slope like that. Like it is the most unnatural. There's no way this thing is natural. It is a burial mound, and it climbs up a good 200 feet into the air.
that reminds me of the Mayan temples in Belize, Central America. I mean, it's covered by earth, but they're actually, like you were talking about, a mound from the Mayans. Yeah, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, and I've actually went climbing on it when I was a kid, and
Shoot, man, if I could walk, I'd love to be able to walk back there and see it with my own fresh eyes. That'd be, I love stuff like that, especially history when it's visible in front of my eyes in
oh, I
nature
do
like that.
too.
I love that. That's awesome. But you know what? You know what? Although the topic that we're going to talk about tonight, let's go ahead and open as we did last time for just in case purposes with the prayer of Saint Michael.
You don't have to say that twice to me. Go right
All
on
right.
ahead, sir.
Well, Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke you, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of Peace, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits that seek the world for the ruin of souls. And once again, Saint Michael, protect us. Saint Gabriel, be that voice of God to speak to us. Saint Raphael, bring us the healing of God. And Saint Uriel, oh, that precious divine light, shine into our hearts and dispose of the dark areas of our life. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and everyone said, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Godless. You
Yeah,
sent me this link, man.
yeah. Let me give it let me give it an introduction.
There you
And
go.
then we can go from there.
It's gonna be a short one.
Yeah. So I was watching, and actually, for those who have heard, I mean, I haven't released it yet. It's releasing tomorrow, but after you have heard this episode, then it would have been out. I actually wrote a Southern Demonology Bite episode all about this, but I was up one Sunday morning and I had already finished my editing for that week. And I'm like, well, you know what? I've got a little bit of time. Let's just go on TikTok and see what's going on. And one of the things that I both enjoy and dread are horror review because I enjoy them simply because of the fact that I get to hear people talk about movies that I may not have seen. And I abhor them because most of the time they are completely disingenuous. People will just, they're seeking content. They
Mm-hmm.
would do whatever they can to get that content on a very regular basis. And they'll start recommending anything or they have other nefarious purposes. I don't know. But anyway, I watched this one guy talk about this movie, which he claimed was one of the best exorcism related movies he's ever seen. And I'm like, oh, that perked my ears up because I love exorcism based movies. And they are so few of them that are actually done very well. Nefarious is the last one that I can remember, which Father Mike recommended to me, and I have now seen more than a few times.
Me
But
too.
uh, so I'm like, okay, let me find out what this movie is. And it was Godless. I think it has the subtitle of the Eastfield Exorcism. And it was released in 2023. And I go on to Tubi and I fire up my TV, which I so rarely use anymore. And I watch it. And I'm like, huh, okay, this is not starting off good. And then it just keeps getting worse and worse until it got to a point where 45 minutes in, I bailed. I'm like, nope, can't do it. This is the worst dribble I have ever seen in my life. And I then go onto our Discord community and I'm like, hey, don't watch this movie. It's really, really bad. And then I tag Father Mike and Deacon Josh and I go, I dare y'all to get further in than I did. And they did. And I am so sorry because I know that's an hour and a half of your life that you are never going to get back.
Oh no. My brain checked out at about 50 minutes.
Oh yeah.
About the
Josh was a
same time
trip.
I did.
Yeah. Before we started the episode, I think I mentioned something about how Nefarious was a must see for specific reasons. But due to the classes that we've been doing about the nature of the demonic,
Mhm.
for your listeners, I mentioned to JJ, I'm very tempted, which I am very tempted in showing this movie in the class and saying this is one of those things that you don't do and that you do want to stay away from because actually, even though about 2 minutes in, I was already done. I mean, I even texted JJ and said, I'm done with this and I'm only 2 minutes in. But if you are called, and I use that term very specifically, into the role or office of an exorcist, I would watch this movie, but watch it with the attitude of this is something that I don't need to be a part of. And the reason being, in which I'll explain all that in just a minute, is you got these fly by night, what I call weekend warrior classes. You go and you spend about 8 hours total in classroom teaching, and I'll say on a level of a Sunday school arena, and then you're certified and you're ready to go take on devils. Well, you're going, number one, you're going to get your rear end handed to you. And number two, you more harm than good. but yes, it's what got me from the very beginning. It's based on a true story, the Eastfield Exorcism, which took place in Australia. And so you got this character named Laura, who is the affected woman who I never got to the point, was she really being tormented by demons or what was happening to her make her believe she was? It was so blurred, but the reason why she was so confused and why the watcher was confused was because of the happenings. But anyway, she's possibly being tormented by the demonic. And during that whole time she's being torn between science and faith. She's trying to rationalize or discern within her own self, is what's happening to me a mental breakdown due to something that's happened to me? And I would assume, which it was never made clear, JJ, which is another bothering thing. Did she have a child and lose it? Or did she have a child or had a miscarriage? Or you never figured out what happened. And then you got her husband, and they had him acting like a bipolar schizophrenic person. He basically forces her by taking bad counsel, which I'm going to call, which was nothing more than church abuse, and then pushes her to seek treatment through this zealot of congregation people that have no utterly clue what they're doing. And then they call in this quote unquote exorcist or this false prophet, and who's going to save her soul by putting this innocent woman through turmoil and then killing her. So that's a synopsis of the whole movie right there. But within the first 2 minutes of the movie, I was instantly turned off due to the setting of this quote unquote deliverance taking place in the middle of a church service, drawing all the attention on this supposed victim of the demonic. And that, that really bothered me because that took all attention and put it on this woman. And when something like that happens, especially in this case, it's going to bring at least 3 devastating outcomes. And what's that, Father Mike? I'm glad you asked. Well, number one, JJ, it breaks the confidentiality of the affected person. They should have moved that woman to another room privately and ministered her properly. No, instead, they wanted to make a show like, we'll use the character we made up, Rob Garson does, and just bring a whole spectator show out of it. And the second thing that's going to do, it's going to bring fear into everyone who sees it and cause manipulation. And the third thing that it's going to do, that was totally not glorifying unto God. So there's your first set of don'ts. But you go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say about that first opening scene.
I don't have anything besides the bad things to say about this entire movie, but
go for it.
The main thing to me is that they did not make it explicitly clear that this is based off from a true story at the very beginning.
Right.
That bugged me. I know that the whole based on a true story thing is woefully overdone and doesn't really mean anything, but the fact that they don't lead with that was horribly, horribly wrong. Second, the husband, or I guess former husband, anyway, whatever their complicated relationship is, he belongs to a rather strange group, religious group to begin with. And the thing that really bugged me about the way that it began is everything is friggin' wrapped in conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
When you first see the woman's first episode that shows something's not quite right with this girl, and she sees a plumber, and I already knew he wasn't real because the guy never reacted to him. And then after he left to go do some farm work, she went to get a glass of water and the plumber was in the way. And he immediately started talking about how, oh gosh, you can't drink fluoride. You don't know what they do. It turns the mind into a receiver. And I'm like, oh my God. And everything about this movie is wrapped in conspiracy theories. It's just, they're trying to just like, it's the most, let me take a hammer and drive home for these stupid people that are watching the movie.
See, now that's part of the view too. Now you're going to have people going around just because they heard it from Hollywood. Well, fluoride's bad for you. No, it isn't. It helps tooth decay. I mean, why do you think they added it to the water?
We don't need any help on that front.
Hello.
I will tell you. So I had a best friend growing up, and my mom was best friends with his mom. They worked together for years at the phone company. We grew up together, and I knew all of his sisters, the woman's daughters. I even dated one of them for a long time, and that's a story for another time. But anyway, we did everything together. On the weekends, I'd go over. I'd stay the night. He'd stay the night at my place. And after he graduated high school, something just changed. I remember his mom and him came out to our house, and I was ecstatic to see him. I was back from college. And so it was a hot weekend afternoon. We were walking around the property, him and I just talking, and he was manic. He was almost shaking, and he was going off on literally on fluoride and how the government uses it to control your mind.
Really? Huh.
And I'm like, what the hell happened to you? And he went off the deep end, and he has not been right in the head ever since.
Wow.
So I heard that, and I already had bad memories of that particular summer afternoon. But
And see, that's what gets me about the movie is the same stock that your friend put into this conspiracy theory, people put into these type of movies. And oh, this is the way that it's done, or this is what may happen, or this is the way it's supposed to go. And it's just foolish to me. Hey, Josh, you there? Before I go to one of the next points that I wanted to address, tell JJ your thoughts from beginning to end, because I told the guys last night that I was sitting here next to you, which I was, laughing my rear end off at you. I have never seen you go off on a movie like the way you did yesterday.
Oh, it was irritating. Just from the very moment it got to that quote unquote deliverance scene that took place, and I guess it was an RV or something, and he's slapping the afflicted
yeah.
around. I'm like, what am I? I felt like I'm watching like a low budget snuff film. I'm like,
yep.
it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think the operative words that Father Mike used to describe you was madder than a wet hen.
Madder than a wet hen, yeah.
And I could just imagine that. And I admit it, I'm on chicken talk. I watch chicken videos more times than I care to admit. And just that mental image just tickled my heart today.
Well, I mean, for those that don't know, Josh is the most, how do I want to put it, JJ? The most laid back,
earnest.
I mean, to know him as a loving type of guy. And to see him looking at this guy, and Josh saying, I wish I could reach him.
Yep. I told him I said, if I had ever was attending an exorcism and I saw someone slap the afflicted or in any way, I'd put them through the wall. I mean,
yeah. Or even just threaten to withhold all food from the afflicted.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit, And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
It can be hard balancing taking care of kids, senior loved ones, and yourself. Remember, it's okay to ask for help. There's a reason 29 million families have turned to Care.com. Find background-checked sitters, nannies, and senior caregivers who can help with everything from watching kids after school to senior meal prep. Whether you need full-time, part-time, or even occasional help, you can view rates and book highly rated caregivers that fit your budget and schedule. Get the help you need with Care.com.
And the sad thing, JJ, is people do this kind of crap.
Oh, I know. I heard someone that used to be in my life, and I'm not going to mention relationships or anything, and they were talking about how they formed the armor of God and surrounded an afflicted person. And this person I was talking to was the shield of the armor.
Oh my God.
And they were praying away the evil. And I wanted to come through the phone and slap them. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Anyway.
But no, but you're right on, because that kind of leads into the second point about the movie that I was seeing. And unfortunately, the first point that I made about being done in public and in the middle of the congregation, that's done all over the place. That is not proper. Okay. Let's just go ahead and set that as number one. That is not proper. And I'll give you the reason why after a while. But the second point I want to make about the movie, and why I would say that this needs to be one of the don'ts, is from the very beginning of the movie until the end. I mean, the very end, who was being glorified through this whole act of exorcism that this guy was trying to perform? The answer is man. Exactly. The very sin of Lucifer, stroking his own pride and making himself the source of the power. Do you remember him saying that I am the hand of God? I
even
delivered.
Before the stupid exorcism even began, when he was in the bathroom looking in the mirror at himself, and he said, by God's authority, no, by my authority. And I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm done. That was it. You've done ticked me off enough right then and there. And I think I watched them put the woman in the garage and then had Betty bring in some water, and they closed the door. And I went, nope, I'm done. I'm out. I'm sorry. I don't want to see a torture porn.
And we'll see, that was the point where Josh was saying, I wish I could get through the TV screen or the computer screen. And Josh, I had JJ, Dave, and Vic laughing last night over you, man. I mean, I've never seen you like that. That was funny to me. But yeah, I mean, and see, unfortunately, once again, that is happening today. People are putting themselves out there. And we don't have to name names. We all know who we're talking about. There's several of them these days.
Yep.
Who think that they got all this power. Well, you don't have a doggone thing. You're operating through the grace and power of God. And if you keep it up, you're going to find yourself in a very bad position to where you're playing around and encounter a real demon. What did I just say? A real one.
Mm-hmm.
Because probably what they're fooling with right now is some insecure person who just wants a time of ministry prayer and who thinks they're being afflicted by demons, but really isn't.
Yep.
And so when they finally encounter a real one, they're not going to know what to do. And then they're going to think, well, I'm the power. Well, yeah, you're the power of your own demise. How about that? I think that's a fair saying.
Accurate.
So that was the other part. And yeah, and like you said about when they put her in the garage, not only were they going to start denying her food, but they bound her. Why? There was no reason to bind her. But the only reason why the guy probably bound her is because the woman knew she was being put on as a show for this man's purpose because of her emotional distress. And see, that's what we got to be careful with these days is through all these offshoots and all these deliverance courses that people take, you got to beware of charlatans. I mean, even Second Timothy reminds us of that, the scriptures, that these are the type of people who come in and take advantage of gullible people and gullible women, even to the point. Now I'm really about to make somebody mad, even to the point to where you wanna make money off of exorcisms. So this movie, although it was a quack movie, it's actually a very instructional movie on not what to do
Yeah,
because it shows the real world.
I knew things were going horribly off the rails when the husband was talking to that female preacher that led that deviant congregation that
Oh
they
my
were a
God.
part of.
Yeah.
And not only was she going off from distrusting medical advice when her husband had cancer and how she took him off and of course he died, and that she didn't link the those two things together for some bloody awful reason, but then was talking about this exorcist which they wanted to call in, and how she was saying that, oh, when he was a child he was special and he was ordained by God. And I was like, okay, it doesn't work like that. I know that you find this in a lot of Protestant churches where you can walk in and you'll see a little kid leading the congregation. And I'm sorry, that's not okay in my book.
It's not proper.
No,
Yeah.
because not only do they have, yeah, they may be feeling the spirit of God. I'm not denying that possibility, but they don't have the education, the knowledge, the know-how, or anything in order to try to be an example onto others besides in whatever devotion they happen to be feeling. I don't know. But the fact that they were celebrating him because of his specialness, and when you meet when you meet this character, he has no religious training.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I have been to more than a few churches led by preachers who have had no training.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
almost every single time that's happened, I have heard the most, excuse the language,
Heretical.
batshit crazy stuff
Yeah.
I have ever
Yeah.
heard in my life.
Yeah.
I was like, already, if you don't have someone who's educated in the proper manners or the proper things, or even how to read the Bible correctly, then you shouldn't be trusting that individual. But then for them to say it's on by their own authority that they can do all this stuff, no, it does not work like that.
Well, JJ, you know as well as I do that they got the Holy Ghost authority to do it.
No.
No.
You know what? That's a whole another show that we need to think about one day.
I would love to have that to
Uh,
be a part of ending the curse. I
I
really
mean,
would.
yes, we'll do that because it drives me crazy. For those of you that think that just because you're born again and you've read the Bible and God calls you that you're ready, that's foolishness. Why should I have to go to a seminary or college, Father Mike, when the Holy Ghost has called me? Because the Bible, the epistles of St. Paul tells you to, and especially Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. So you go read those and then come back and talk to me. I'm talking about anybody who doubts that people need an education because it's very important. But see that even in cases, one of the other points that I want to bring up, everything that we just talked about, including the education, the personal character of this, was his name Daniel the exorcist?
Yeah.
Yeah, the personal character of this guy, it was more than
Repulsive.
questionable. I mean, well, you can't judge. No, I can't judge the heart of man. But this guy in this movie, his character stank. He has some bad fruit. Why would you say that? Because he struck the man's wife. He was full of violence and harnessing her to a chair for no reason. Is there ever a need to bind someone? In very extreme, unfortunate cases, they may be. But let me go ahead and tell you, this whole binding thing and tying them up, that's 90% Hollywood driven, because most of your demonic cases are not going to be full blown physical attacks.
And
Most
nowadays,
of
people have a team to hold the afflicted
yeah,
down.
yeah. And see, there's another one. They invited the church into this thing. You don't do that, because over half of them was clearly didn't want to be there to begin with. But then also, not only did the guy strike the woman, he refused to listen to medical counsel by the woman that was a part of that congregation. Remember, was it the blonde headed girl or something? I forget her
Yeah.
name.
I can't remember.
But even she was trying to say, she doesn't need this. And he turned around and looked at her and basically said, "Who are you?" You know?
All it took was to the flashback scenes of Daniel being at the previous exorcism where he had that guy in his underwear strapped to a chair.
Oh yeah.
And they were essentially just torturing this poor individual. It's just, there's enough bad examples of what not to do out there in the world. And if you're trying to make it explicitly clear as a film director that you're trying to hold this up as a counterexample of everything that should not be done, I could understand that. I could actually even get behind that. That's not the case here.
No, it wasn't. No.
I'm a person that believes extremely strongly and passionately that the more knowledge that you have on a given topic before you start watching a type of film that depends upon that, not only are you going to enjoy it more, but you're also going to be able to see the drivel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if you start watching Japanese horror and you see Sadako, or you see any of these others, Yurei, that are being depicted with long, black, straggly hair and a white gown, if you know why they're dressed like that, you're going to feel not only more connected to the source material, but you're going to get more of the cultural signs of what's being depicted.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing for these movies. If you understand the basics of exorcism, then, and maybe a little bit about demonology, then you're going to be able to pick up on these things. And maybe you're not going to be some crap content creator out there recommending this drivel that should never be seen by anybody, because it's not only a bad movie, it's showing the worst things that you could ever possibly do.
Exactly.
Anyway, I didn't mean to get so riled up.
No. I mean, we're sharing the exact same thoughts again. I mean,
But
go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
back on the whole being educated thing, another reason it's important is because if any of them were properly educated, they would have noticed right, like as soon as he began trying to manipulate them with scripture.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm.
That, and also the prayers he was using. He used the Anima Christi prayer, which is a prayer for communion.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's a good prayer, but
Exactly.
it's used for communion purposes.
I'm so glad that you said that. Thank you for that. Yeah. The whole thing, this is kind of the last thing that I have to say on the entire bloody topic. I felt the most bad for the female actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because not only did she have to go through reenacting that torture porn, but she got fully naked for this movie.
Yeah.
And for what? You go off and you showed your giblets. She seemed to have genuine talent. And that just made me feel so bad for her.
Yeah. And it did. I mean, I was like, they are defacing this woman for no reason. I will say the only thing that this movie did right is that it did get the pronoun, how the pronouns get confused between I and you and we and they all the time. That was the only thing it got right. But B, well, the only other thing is that when this girl was fully nude and was dancing. Oh, and that Wiccan dance. Yeah.
That was the eeriest thing in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Because everything might be on display, but there is nothing sexual about that.
No, it was totally demonic. It was a Wiccan witch dance. Yeah.
Well, it just sent shivers down my spine.
It was 100%. I'm like, that's the first thing that I told Josh. I said, well, that's funny. They got her out there doing a Wiccan witch nature dance in the middle of the night, nude. I said, what's that got to do with anything? So I was like, well, maybe she is oppressed. But then they took it up. In your opinion, how many twists and turns did they do to keep you confused as all get out?
They tried to do a lot, but but even like not even a quarter of the way through, it came down strongly on the idea that she was truly possessed. Because one of the things that this other poor content creator was going off on is, well, it's kind of a medical mystery. Is she truly possessed, or does she suffer from psychological issues? And I'm like, no, they tried to do that, and then they quickly abandoned that and just kind of left it up in the air. And they just kept coming down on the fact that she's acting so strangely. There's no other explanation, but I mean, plus the visions are clearly demonically inspired, but
right.
I don't know.
It's like someone watched one too many M. Night Shyamalan movies and then tried to make a movie with like 30 different twists.
What a twist. Yeah, talk about another no hack talent.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. I watched The Sixth Sense. I enjoyed it. And then I went to theaters and saw The Village. And I went, another big twist. Then I saw the next one. Another big twist. And that was the last movie I ever watched of his because they're the same gosh dang thing. Oh, pissy. He's a one-trick pony.
The last thing that I got to say about this whole movie thing
is you're so grateful that I told you about it, right?
Yeah. is if this was a true case and things really did happen like this, if the woman was not suffering from emotional distress before all this, she certainly is now. And unfortunately, there are so many cases today to where unknowing, untrained, uneducated people make someone believe that they're demonically possessed and put them through a full-blown exorcism and drives them crazy.
Yep.
Because that's what will happen. You either are or you're not.
Also, if they really were possessed,
They would have
I
ate
think-
that guy for lunch.
it would have looked at that guy, laughed, broke the bindings, and then took him out.
Exactly.
Because the guy, number one, was operating out of authority, and two, since he was doing it out of his own power, he's not under the protection of Christ. So that demon would have had every authority to beat his ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if anyone deserved it, it was
He did.
definitely him.
He did.
Well, and
Well-
the only other thing that I'll say before we wrap up is supposedly they were visiting in the very beginning of this film. The couple was visiting that female mental health practitioner
Right.
in order to get a form signed so that they could see a church approved exorcist. And I was
It's
like,
not.
that's not how that works. Yes, the church insists upon proper medical and psychological evaluations, but it's not like it's a form that you go get filled out and they're like, oh, yeah, this checks out. Fine, come on in. We're doing exorcism now. No, they are firmly involved in everything so they can make sure that the opinions of the people that are doing the evaluations can be trusted. Otherwise, what's the point?
And not to mention on the medical side of things, just from my medical background, the patient has every right to request their records. They don't need to tick a box. They can just sign a form that releases their papers to them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It kind of reminds me, JJ. I got my prescription today for an exorcism. I gotta go. I gotta go fill it.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry y'all sat through the movie.
Oh, well,
but
I had to. After I started, I was like, okay, I got to see where this is going. So it'll totally piss me off.
but honestly, I think that we can make something good out of it.
Oh, we can definitely.
I mean, just talking about all the things that are wrong with it, maybe people will hear it and some redeeming factor out of our collective time wasted will come into effect. Who knows?
Well, I would dare say this, JJ. If any of the listeners were to ever encounter something like that going on publicly in front of everybody, that is 100% wrong. It is not in order, and I would run from that place. I would not stick around. I would not wait and see. I would run from it because it is not proper and it is not glorifying God, and Christ is not being first served. It's man in his show.
And it was nothing but a show. And I guess, yeah, even in the very beginning, when the guy was sitting in that church and the really heavy boned woman was flailing around on the ground and they were casting the demons out of her.
That's the scene. Yep.
Yeah. And I was just, oh gosh, it filled me with such rage just watching that. Anyway, Father Mike and Deacon Josh, before y'all go, can you tell the people how to find y'all? It's not like, unless it's their first time ever hearing me, then they certainly haven't, not been a stranger to y'all. But I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to hear it.
Well, absolutely. You can find me Well, first and foremost, on Facebook, Mike Birdsong from Thomaston, Georgia. I'm the pastor rector of St. Michael and All Angels Charismatic Episcopal Church. Also, you can find me on Coming a House of Prayer. What is it, Josh? .wordpress.com.
.wordpress.com.
Yeah, you can find that and hopefully find the other
Book patch.
the other 4 books that I've written. But yes, you can find me on thebookpatch.com, Father Michael Birdsong, and I've written 4 books that I would highly recommend for you. And they are cheap and written in plain redneck Southern Georgia English, so anybody can understand it. Of course, you can find me on Ending the Curse podcast, along with I got frequent flyer miles on Southern Demonology now, and Trailer Trash Terrors with Vic Hermanson, and the Paranormal Rundown, which I call the Paranormal Dork Crew, that has myself and JJ and David Griffith and Vic Hermanson as well. And you guys got to check this out. We have podcasts that are unlike any other. We can be serious, we can be funny, but also we have a heart to help. And that just astounds me each and every time that I hear people reaching out, especially on Southern Demonology, to JJ. JJ has a heart to help and a heart to serve. God's going to really reward him in that. But Josh, tell him about Birdsong Blessings and your handmade jewelry.
I was just about to ask.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I make handmade rosaries and crosses and things like that on my Etsy page called Birdsong Blessings.
I will have a full link to all of that, but I will say that I bought both the rosary and the prayer beads and did a full video on them, and they are absolutely beautiful. I cannot thank you enough, Josh, for that.
Thank you.
Did you see the latest one, the red, white, and blue? I called it America.
I did, yeah. It was beautiful. All righty, y'all.
Right.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. Thank all of y'all out there in listener land for sticking with us. I'm sure that if you've listened to the do's and don'ts of exorcism, some of this may have already been apparent, but yeah, stay away from this movie. It's not worth your time.
Yeah. Not worth it. I'm currently trying to repress the movie.
You and me both. All right,
I appreciate you very much, JJ.
Thank you for listening to Southern Demonology. Find us online at southerndemonology.com, which offers links to all of our social media and episodes. Southern Demonology is solely owned, produced, and edited by myself, and the intro and outro music are composed by me as well. If you have a moment, please rate, like, and share this podcast, as it is the best way to help support my work. As always, I am JJ, and it has been a pleasure to speak to you today.